Welcome to Standing on Truth. I'm Cindy, and today we have Michele Lentz with us from Child Protection League. Welcome to the show,
Hi,
Michele.
Cindy. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the Child Protection League?
Sure. Well, the Child Protection League has been around for um, 12, let's see, I think we're in our 13th year, maybe 14th year. We started in 2013, officially in 2014 when we finally got our um, 501c4 designation from the IRS. And as I was telling you before, we actually have two organizations. One is education related, that is CPL Education. And then the advocacy side of our organization is a 501c4 nonprofit called CPL Action, or just Child Protection League. And we started back in 2012 because there was a piece of legislation in Minnesota that they had called the Safe and Supportive Schools Act. And we realized that this was basically an indoctrination piece of legislation. It was going to mandate on all schools, in the name of anti bullying, that they affirm and celebrate homosexuality, transgenderism, and basically anything goes sex ed.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else would be considered bullying or discrimination. And so we formed a campaign to educate the public on that. And when that campaign was over, we were done. But so we had some money left. We put on an event. And the very next week, we were contacted by some people who asked us if we would take on the Minnesota State High School League, which had proposed a policy that would allow boys to play on girls' sports and shower with them and travel with them. And, would we help? So we said, yes, we'll help. And so the first thing we did was we took out an ad in the Star Tribune, and that ad looked like this. And it basically said, a male wants to shower beside your 14-year-old daughter. Are you okay with that? And underneath it, we told about the policy and we put all the contact information of the members of the Minnesota State High School League. Now, this ad went viral and it was talked about all over the country. How do I know that? Because in the next 3 weeks, I got 42 interview requests.
Wow.
And I was able to do 39 of them. And there were articles written about this in the UK, in New Zealand, in Australia, and all around the country. People wanted to talk about the ad. And so we used that to talk about the issue. And I will say, how prophetic was that in 2014, 2015, that we came out and said, if you pass this policy, boys are going to play on girls' sports and travel with them and be in their private spaces. And fast forward 10 years, and what are we
Right,
actually dealing with in this
right.
country? And so that put a lot of pressure on the Minnesota State High School League. They canceled their next meeting. You'll see at the top of that ad, it said that the meeting was tabled until December 2014. So this was right at the end of the year. And
I imagine they got a few phone calls.
they did 10,000. They
Oh my
admitted that
gosh.
they got 10,000 calls and emails.
Mhm.
And so the fact that they canceled the next meeting gave us some time. So that's when we took out the next ad in the Star Tribune. And this ad said, "Is this the end of girls' sports?" This is now still in the news. Now, still relevant, but here we were in 2014 saying if they do this, this is going to be the end of girls' sports.
Yeah.
And And so what happened was the Minnesota State High School League didn't pass the policy. They passed an appeals process, meaning, okay, we won't mandate this on all participating schools, but if a student comes to us and says that their school won't let this boy play on the girls' team, then we will use that policy as the appeals process. And what happened after that is the people who were pushing um, that ideology just started suing school districts, and that's why it hasn't stopped. And then under President Trump, they weren't able to do anything policy wise, really, but they could lawsuit wise. And then under Biden, the floodgates opened, and they started to really mandate these things. And now you're seeing litigation go our way on this,
Good.
and science coming out and talking about the harm that's been done to children who, they have let go through these puberty blockers and um, mutilation surgeries in the name of gender. And so,
Right.
yeah, so we took on that, and so we never stopped after that. We just
Yeah.
kept going. It's been one thing after another.
I know I went out to your website last week and I was amazed at all the issues you cover. It's a lot.
Hmm.
I think you must have a team of 100 people, right?
Yeah, there's about a dozen of us,
Yeah.
between the two boards and some key volunteers. And we're all volunteers. None of us get paid, but we do hire and do some contract
Hmm.
work. Um, and so, I guess all I can say is God's blessed it,
Yeah.
because we said yes, to that. And um, we've been forced to deal mainly with education
Hmm.
issues. And so while sometimes people will ask us if we'll take on more, with like child protection services or foster care or trafficking, and the reality is we are constantly putting out fires in education.
Yeah.
And which kind of plays into that anyway, because through things like comprehensive sex ed, they desensitize children to sexual things,
Hmm.
and groom them to um, early sexual activity. And so nipping that in the bud, you could say, requires that you deal with some of what's coming down in education policy. But then there is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which came out of kind of the bullying bill,
Hmm.
but not necessarily. But the two go hand in hand, and equity followed. Um, and so that is a framework for all of public education now. And even the current administration in Minnesota established DEI as a framework for his governance, and established a DEI equity officer, or it's not a czar, like we had a safe school czar under one of the former administrations federally, but there is an official under the Walsh administration that make sure that every agency is following DEI. And DEI is deeply embedded into Minnesota education policy. And for people who don't know what DEI is, diversity, equity, and inclusion is what that stands for. Or, in other words, everything woke. It
Hmm.
has been kind of the buzzword to describe it in the past few years. Um, we have had to deal with that. Another key, and all of this stuff you can learn about at cplaction.com.
Hmm.
Another really important uh, issue that parents and citizens need to understand is social emotional learning. Social emotional learning is the delivery system for DEI. DEI is the ideology.
Hmm.
How is that getting how are kids getting manipulated into believing those concepts is through social emotional learning. And so we've had to deal with that. The the Minnesota legislature in 2019 was going to mandate comprehensive sex ed on all of the schools. And so we dealt with that and held the Republicans' feet to the fire that they did not cave on that issue and they stopped it. Um, and so sometimes we make both parties mad, but we stand for protecting the kids
Right.
regardless. And so uh, those are the main issues. We
Yeah.
do a little bit about the exploitation of children and online safety and sextortion, which is a huge threat to teenagers these days, not just girls, too. It's more boys who are victims of sextortion
Oh, it's so
than
sad.
girls. Hmm.
Yeah. So, what would you say the mission is of CPL?
Our mission is to protect children from violence, exploitation, and indoctrination. And we do this by equipping and educating and empowering parents to stand up and speak out
Mhm.
and be able to articulate the issues. So we take what might be a complex issue, such as the teacher licensing standards,
Mhm.
or right now the new health standards that are being dealt with at the state level, and take those concepts and make them easy for people to understand so that they can speak to them and speak up about them. And then, I think it's really important to provide moral support for one another, because the worst thing that I would want to see is a citizen or a parent go in and talk to an official, whether it's in a school or city council or county or state, and and get hurt
Mhm.
because they tell them that they're extreme, or they're nobody's saying this, nobody else is complaining to me about this, and they purposely make them feel they purposely uh characterize them, not make them feel, they purposely characterize them as like marginal
Yeah.
and extreme. And if you don't help one another to be equipped, like, don't ever go to those meetings alone, always bring
Mhm.
someone else, is just a simple rule there. What happens is people get hurt and then they don't want to get involved anymore, right?
Right.
And it's important that we help one another to have the skill and the courage and the camaraderie to stay
Mhm.
engaged in the battle. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you agree? I mean, we're in a
Yeah.
war for the sovereignty of our country. Someone is trying to destroy us.
Yeah. I know just meeting you today and talking you've encouraged me in standing on truth and to stand for what's right,
Hmm.
and protecting the children is right. That
Hmm.
is right. How can you go wrong?
Hmm. And that
So,
can unite us.
yeah.
I um it doesn't matter what political party people are. I didn't tell you this early, but this is probably worth people knowing. Back in April of 2025, so almost a year ago, we did a national poll. And so we hired this polling company for this national poll, and we talked to parents of school-age children. And we asked them what were their top three concerns. So it didn't matter what party they belonged to, whether it was independent, and all the demographics and the crosstabs
Mhm.
were pulled on this. It was that if they voted for Trump and they were the parents of school age children, that was our requirement. And we asked them what were their top three concerns. So Democrat, Republican, independent, non-political, they they agreed on this, that their top concern for their children was their safety and violence, and that their second concern for their children was that they could get a good job, that they would
Mhm.
have a secure financial future, like that the economy would be good, right?
Right.
And their third concern was education. And so then we drilled down on each of those topics a bit. And under education, their first concern was bullying and violence in the schools. Their second concern was academic outcome and grades. And their third concern was gender ideology.
Wow, that says a lot.
So across the board, parents don't want their children indoctrinated into gender ideology. They don't want that. And across the board, parents don't want their kids uh, graduating not knowing how to read,
Right, right.
right? And so the public schools have lost their priorities,
Yeah.
and that's why academic outcomes are so poor. So it doesn't matter. Um, we have to stop letting them divide us. You
Right.
know, we have to think about what do we have in common, and one thing we can all agree on is we don't want kids getting hurt.
Right. And we want them to be ready for the future.
Mm.
Yeah. So how can someone become involved in your organization?
I think one of the most important things for people to do is get educated about what's going on. And so, you know, that requires reading or watching our videos or watching other people's videos, and opening your eyes to what is going on in this country, right? And then so cplaction.com is the main place to go because that will take you to the education side, but all of our content is on there. You can sign up for our email updates. We don't put out a lot because we're all volunteers and have other commitments in our life, but we do put out, you know, one a week, or in busy times, maybe two. And that's one way that people can keep in touch with us is just to get our email updates. And then the third thing, you know, is come to the conference. So I don't know if you can see that we're putting on a conference in April 25th, both in person and online. So if you're in Minnesota or the region, you might want to attend in person. If you live way up north or outstate, or you can't come in town to the Twin Cities for it, you can watch it virtually. And the details on how to register for that are both at cpleducation.com. But if you go to cplaction.com, you can still get there. Our keynote speaker is Laura Logan, who is a nationally renowned journalist, worked for 60 Minutes, I think, as their war correspondent for years. She's now independent, just a gem of a lady. Liz Collin from Alpha News will be our MC. A lot of people know her because Alpha is from Minnesota. Mel K is a former Hollywood um, professional who kind of got sick, I think, of the culture and left and started her own podcast. So she's got a huge following. People who are into the podcasting world probably know who Mel K is. Dr. Michelle Cretella is the former president of the American College of Pediatricians. They were the only organization telling the truth about gender ideology. And so she will come in and actually give a presentation on gender ideology and how to help young people heal from gender confusion. Center for American Liberty is a nonprofit pro bono litigation firm started by Harmeet Dillon in 2018. And so they're going to come in and talk about the whole lawsuit world, lawfare, and what they are doing to help protect parents' rights by filing lawsuits. And then Alvin Louie is the president and founder of Courage is a Habit. If you haven't heard of Courage is a Habit, you got to go check them out. He is a master communicator at how to take these issues like social emotional learning and make them easy to understand and equip parents with powerful communication tools. He also is the person who exposed the school counselor uh, infiltration, basically. So the American Association of School Counselors is not what it was when we were kids, and they are not on the same page as parents. And so what Alvin did, and they just issued a report in 2025, but they infiltrated their convention and or attended it and exposed what they
Wow.
said they were doing as school counselors. So he's just a great addition to this. In addition to that, we've got some really good vendors coming to this. All our vendors are top notch. We've got Prenatal Partners for Life will be there. Restore Minnesota will be there. Moms for Liberty will be there. Um, who else do we have coming? Michelle Peterson, who is a woman who has been traveling the country helping states to pass anti grooming laws after her son was a victim of grooming. Um, she will be there, and I don't know if I'm forgetting a couple more, but um, so it is going to be a dynamic conference, and we hope people will attend in person. But if you can't attend in person, get some people together, register for the online version, and make a day of it.
I've been on the fence. I think you just talked me into it.
Well, the other important thing is come find your people.
Yeah.
We can't fight these battles alone. We need each other, and we need to be with each other. They want us to think that we're in the minority. We're not in the minority.
Right.
We just happen to be in the remnant, so to speak, right? And that doesn't, but most people don't want their kids getting hurt.
No.
And so what do? Oh, they call us names and they say we're this and we're that. And then people are afraid to speak up because they don't want to be called
Yeah.
a bad name. And the point, but the fact is, they agree with us. And so for those who want to come and be with your people and be with people who think like you and are concerned about what's happening in this country, this is a conference to attend.
And for the knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
So just to come to learn and be able to
Mm-hmm.
stand on the ground.
And to
And
network with
yeah.
speakers who are nationally acclaimed, except for Liz Collin, we're flying them all in. And I don't think Alvin's been here before. I don't think Mel K's been here before. Um, I don't know if any of these speakers have been here before.
Wow.
And it's not this isn't your run of the mill conference. Like, these are cutting edge speakers. They aren't, this is not, vanilla pudding issues here. These are people who have paid the price for for the stand that they have taken, all the way down to our MC.
Yeah. Oh, I love Liz. We've heard her speak a few times and she's dynamic.
Yeah, she's a gem.
So she'll be a good MC.
Mm-hmm.
She keeps you laughing.
Good.
Yeah, which is another thing that you do. So this is a conference this year, but you hold conferences. How often do you have classes or
it depends. Like last summer we did a bunch of outreach, and so I think every other year maybe we'll do outreach. But in January we did more of a private event. But we brought She Van Fleet to Minnesota, who is the woman who wrote the book Mao's America, who grew up under Mao in China and is an American citizen. And she first went to Loudon School Board. I don't know what they were passing, and she said, "What you're doing is exactly what Mao did." Wow. And she just came out with her second book. And then we also brought in that day Joy Pullman from the Federalist. And so that was called Mapping a Woke Free Future, was that. And if you go to our both CPL Education website, cpleducation.com, or if you go to our Rumble channel, you can watch the videos from that conference.
We'll have to do that.
We brought James Lindsay in. We brought Alex Newman in. But we haven't done a ton of conferences. But every other year, I think we've done something.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, we did an online one. But this is our biggest event yet.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, is there anything else that you want to share? I think,
Well, I
yeah,
guess yeah, the
yeah,
go ahead and read the reason for our campaign,
yeah.
which is called Child Protection League Join the Movement. And so the whole purpose is to amplify this movement of coming together to protect kids
Hmm.
and not let the powers that are fighting to destroy our country divide us.
Right.
And the thing that we can agree upon is the protection of children. And so that means, that we have to put a lot of our biases aside.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you're not discerning or you're not careful, and you're not um, understanding the signs of the times and all of that. But it does mean that when we're dealing with people, that we see the preciousness of the soul of the
Hmm.
person in front of us. And we at least try to start with, where do we have common ground?
Yeah.
And a great place of common ground is protecting children.
Yeah.
So we on our website, people can take the pledge that says, I'm going to educate myself, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to speak up,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get involved. And so when they sign the pledge, and you can do it online, then what we do is we send you a couple of water bottle stickers, and then we send a couple of those cards if you want to read it.
Yeah. But on the back is your what you're talking about reading.
It's what our campaign is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Children are in danger. CPL's Join the Movement is uniting people across the country to get informed and help to protect kids from trafficking, online exploitation, violence, bullying, medical abuse, indoctrination, and more.
So that covers a lot.
It covers a
Yeah.
lot. And if you go to their website, you'll be amazed, like I was, at how much
Yeah.
it covers.
I think it's important too, Cindy, that people, like when you take the pledge, that you ask God to put on your heart,
Mhm.
what is the area that you should work in. And there it doesn't matter if your hot button issue is Second Amendment rights
Mhm.
or if it's taxation, you know, the enemy is the same.
Yep.
In 1945, what did the communists say they were going to do? I mean, 1950s, they said they had 45 goals, right, for
Wow.
how to take down America. And all of these things that we're seeing happen are those goals
Wow.
manifesting themselves. So that was in the book The Naked Communist, which was read into the congressional record, I think in the 1950s,
Okay.
or that's when it was written. It was read later. But one of those communist goals was the infiltration of education and media. And the fact is that people um, don't know their history well
Mhm.
enough to understand that. And so they have made great strides in doing that. But it whether you call it communists or globalists, or you call it by some other name, the fact is there are forces trying to destroy our country
Right.
and our society. And so when we unite as patriots, as parents, as citizens, to be the counter revolution of the cultural revolutionaries that are doing this, go where God calls you to go and work where God calls you to work. And don't worry about the rest. And so if you're working to protect our Second Amendment rights, you're working to protect kids.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know.
yeah, for sure.
So join the movement, join us, and spread the word, and come to the conference, and don't give up.
Well, thank you for being on our show today. Yeah, and maybe we'll have to have you back as issues come up to talk about some of the hot topics.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And thanks
Yeah.
for having me on. I really appreciate the
Oh,
opportunity, Cindy.
well, I've loved talking to you today, so thank you.